Hi there, it's Bike Touring Mike here. I'm currently camped out here in the forest in Västerbotten, Sweden, and for the next couple of days I'm doing a round trip down to the city of Umeå. And as you can probably see behind me, I have my bikepacking setup. So I'm doing sort of a test run with my new Ortli bikepacking setup. And as you probably realize, this isn't the first day of this tour. So before we hit the road, I thought I'd take you through some highlights from day one and take you on a brief overview of this bikepacking trip as well. The Eurovelo 7 might not be the most scenic bike route that you'll ever ride, but it has one thing going for it that no other of the Eurovelo has. The fact that you become one with nature. And the forests are just bursting with life during this part of the year. Everything comes back to life again after hibernating for a long and harsh winter. You'll find yourself cycling on desolate roads, both paved and gravel, far into the night, only to realize that you've already entered a whole new day. The days all blend into each other up here in the north, since this time of the year the sun is basically shining all through the night. So my mission was to pack my bike, set out and discover what my beautiful county has to offer by being immersed in nature for a couple of days and nights. After a short breakfast stop in the town of Robertsfors, I continued my journey south on the Eurovelo 7 toward the goal of the day, Umeå. I quickly found myself riding on gravel roads again, with varied quality. I've ended up on a dirt road that's partly covered with snow and my tires are all jammed up with clay and snow. If you quickly look at a map over the Eurovelo 7, you might think that it follows the coast. But this was actually the only time during the whole trip that I actually saw the sea. So I decided to stop here at Ratan for a little Swedish fika break. And now I'm moving on towards Umeå again. I continued to follow small roads and cycle paths and eventually made my way to the outskirts of Umeå. I actually lived here in Umeå for 4 years, about 2 decades ago when I studied at the university here. And here's my dorm room right behind me. Umeå is by far one of the best cities when it comes to bike infrastructure here in Sweden. And they also have a lot of smart innovations, such as the thing I have behind me here. This is called Bike and Park. So if you're commuting from a town that's a bit far from Umeå, you can park your car over here and store your bike in one of these lockers and then take your bike into town. Umeå is a town booming with culture. In fact, back in 2014, it was named the European Capital of Culture. Cycling with the bikepacking bags has been a real treat, but this is one of those times when I wish I had panniers instead. To see I'm trying to fit all my groceries everywhere I can find an empty spot. So I'm leaving Umeå now and heading north again, and I'm on to a different road this time, and this one is much more direct than the Eurovelo 7. So I think it's about 130 kilometers back to Skellefteå again, compared with the almost 200 that I took down on the way to Umeå. And of course I'm not gonna cycle 130 kilometers more this evening, but I thought I'd give myself a head start so I don't have to do that much tomorrow either. I'm about 90 kilometers in today, so I'm aiming to do about 20 more or so. And it's a really lovely evening here, and I also picked up a bit of a tailwind, so I feel like I can go on for an hour or so at least. So I've just turned off the road here after about 125 kilometers. And when I turn off the road and try to find a campsite here in Sweden, I always look for a pine forest, since those forests often have a pretty flat and even surface. And especially now when there's snow here and there, the pine forests are always the forests that dry up first. And when I've found a nice enough pine forest, I usually just park my bike up against a tree, and then I go in for about 5 minutes to find a nice location for my tent. So that's what I've done now, and to mark my spot I hang my helmet in a nearby tree so that I'm able to find my way back to that nice spot again. Let's see if you can spot my helmet. The tent is set up and I'm gonna head inside soon, but before I do that I'm just gonna enjoy an evening snack. This is not my dinner. I had dinner in Umeå, but that's like 4 hours ago. So I just made myself a baguette sandwich, and I have some nice potato chips, and I'm also gonna enjoy this one that I'm carrying along with me for the whole journey. It is day 3 of my backpacking trip around Västerbotten here in northern Sweden, and I'm just about to hit the road. I'm just packing up the tent. And it's a lot chillier today than yesterday. I think we had around 25 degrees Celsius yesterday, and now it's only 6-7 degrees, so that's why I'm a bit more dressed today. According to the Garmin, I have about 100 kilometers left to do today. But there seems to be a wind from the north, so I'm gonna probably have a headwind for most of the day here.
So you live in the dream, you should see it through someone else's side. Another cipher to break, while the grass grows underneath my feet. Been running out of time for so long. Hello, 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 Leo. Now I'm running out of soul. Hello, 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 Leo. Hope I got the time to tell you. Hello, 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 Leo. Hello, Leo.
After a cold and windy start to the day, I took a lunch break in the town of Bygdsiljum, overlooking a nice lake.
Got a pure heart, kind of honesty that will always stay. Don't ever let it bring you down. What a terrible thing to say. Trembling across my fingers out of sight. Hello, 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 Leah. I was lost inside a maze of night. Hello, 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 Leah. I stayed up and watched you till daylight. Hello, 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 Leah. Hello, 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 Leah.
So it turned out to be a really windy day, and of course I had a headwind most of the day, so I wasn't able to film that much. I was pretty beat myself. But now I'm finally back here in Skellefteå, and I've got just a few kilometers until I'm back home again. So I want to thank you for following along on this adventure, and if you want to watch my latest adventure from Norway, which I hope I'm going to later this year, you can do so by clicking the link up in the corner here. Otherwise, until next time, have a good one.